The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mike, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Max Radio. We're open line through till 1 o'clock today, so the floor's yours. Text 166 177, WhatsApp 166 177, email studio@maxradio.com, call 66 13 68. Well, what do you think about that news? Lord Street Flats up for sale. Now the relocation to the Peel Road Flats has continued. What's going to happen there? It's a huge site, isn't it? I wonder what's going to happen. Does anybody... I've got a note in. Horace just said, is this the next project for the Manx Development Corporation? Well, we'll never know until something is actually announced. And coincidentally, next Thursday, a week today, Councillor Watson, Devon Watson's going to be on Mannin Line. Obviously, he's representative of Douglas City Council and concerned with housing. So we'll be talking about that, get into the detail of it. And Douglas North MHK and himself, a former Douglas councillor, David Ashford MHK. That's next Thursday, talking housing. It is a vexed question on the Isle of Man, how you do affordable housing for people. I mean, there are still people who don't want to buy. There are people who are more than content to rent, but getting the stepladder, as it were, up for people, for young people who want to get onto the housing ladder, seems to be getting more difficult. So we'll think more on that and come up with some conclusions, no doubt, by next Thursday. In the meantime, if you want to have a word on that, by all means do get in touch. When my mother, well, this is the question. Do you remember yesterday I was mentioning, is it illegal or illegitimate to take stones from the beach to decorate your garden? I'm not talking about, lorryfuls of the darn things, but, a few. Muriel said, when my mother lived in Ramsey, she had the bright idea of getting some nice smooth stones from North Shore for her garden. She filled her shopping trolley on wheels and then found she couldn't lift it or pull it. That would make a nice scene, wouldn't it? Thank you, Muriel. The demise of the post office has been pushed for quite some time. It's really bad for those who rely on the social side of picking up their pension. This is a story about My Card, which is being elbowed in about a year's time. Next December it's going to be going, December 2025. And there are some 3,000 people who've got My Cards to pick up their pensions or benefits. Thank you, AJ. Good to hear from you. How are we supposed to pay people who do messages for us? This is the cashless society and the fact that cash is kind of... Well, really, the banks couldn't care less about cash. They want everything online and everything via cards. How are we supposed to pay people who do messages for us? Or the window cleaner if you haven't got cash? Young people, take note. Remember the birthday and Christmas card you got with your money in? Forget it. Says Jill. Oh, well, every cloud. And more messages. Yes. Oh, some stuff came in from yesterday regarding the election in the United States. So anyway, let's get to the lines first of all. Wilf's on now. Hi, Wilf.
Hi. It's just when I'm walking down the street now these days, people stop me and say, "You haven't been on. Get on." But I said I can't get on if I don't. I've got to have something that I know something about. Well, you've just said something now, which I know something about. And no, you're not allowed to take stones off the beach. And you haven't been for years and years. But the thing is, if you go to the north, way back, there's dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds of houses down there built of cobblestones.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Walls and all sorts.
That's it. There's loads of pebble dash that's obviously come from the beach.
Well, that's pebble dash. Yeah, well, I don't know. It in the old days it did. But not now. You're not allowed to take anything off. No sand, no stones, no nothing, which is absolutely stupid because that's what wants to happen, especially in Douglas, which I've said before. I mean, they got put that stupid wall up, which is not going to be a heap of the good at all. Well, so I was going to say something else. I've forgotten what the hell it was.
So, what sort of stones? I mean, where are the? If you were, I mean, not that you should do, but if you were to look for flat stones, where are they in Ramsey?
You don't get flat stones much on the beach.
Don't you?
Only little ones. You don't get. If you go to the north and look at the cobbles, you'll see that the cobbles have got one flat side.
Right.
And that's a skill in itself. The old fellows could hit it just right and knock a piece off it, and put one flat side on to make it easier to build, or didn't stick out so far, or whatever, you know.
So when did all that stop? When did they stop using those cobbles?
Oh, many years ago. Many years ago. They still build with cobbles, but you've got to buy them from before they get crushed. They dig them out of the ground now at down the Point of Ayr, because they're not allowed to take them off the beach. And if you look down the beach at the point, the actual Point of Ayr is growing all the time towards Scotland.
Yeah.
It's going. It's getting more. When they try to they have to take an aerial picture of it to take a fresh measurement, you know. And there's millions and millions of tons. They'd love to get their hands on that, but of course, the bird's nest on it, and that's an end to it. That's it. You can't have that. So they've got to go inland and dig it out of the ground. And then it's all sorted, different sizes, and they're crushed if you want it crushed. But you could get cobbles there if you wanted them.
Right.
But look at the amount of cobbles we got on Douglas Beach. You're not allowed to touch them. Now, there used to be a thing at one time in the north, I don't know about anywhere else, but it was certainly in the north, where they used to put the top on walls, on cobble walls in the north, with stuff called scrabbling. Now, that's a Manx name for it. It's sea creatures all stuck together. It looks like concrete, but it's not concrete, and there's all funny shapes and things. And there's still a few walls in Ramsey. There's certainly some in Plenty and Bride with scrabbling on the top of it. And they used to go down and take that as they wanted it. Nobody bothered anybody. I've been told there's a house, I think it might be still called Birdcroft, I don't know, in Bride. And my old man said it was built. He knew the fella building it. He had a Harley Davidson, an old Harley Davidson sidecar. And he used to go down to the beach every day, load it up with sand and gravel, and he'd come back, and he had two planks, and he put them together. He'd fill the trough up, make concrete, fill the trough up, let it go off. Next day, another one. And you used to be able to, when it's been pebble dashed or different finish on it now, you could see the lines of the planks. Because the old man pointed them out to me off each day that he put one plank, and he built his whole house like that.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And, all free.
We were talking yesterday, Wilf, about these 15 brownfield sites in Ramsey, and Dr. Allenson was talking about, doing Ramsey up and gentrifying it and making sure everything gets developed.
Yeah. You're right.
And
you've got to get these sites. Some of them are available, and some of them are not.
Well,
but the ones that are available are worth. They want big money for them.
And that's the point. The fact is, you can't just take these sites. They belong to people, and they may not want to sell them.
Well, there's a couple of sites belonging to the commissioners, which I've told them for years to build on, but they just put loads of crap on. They don't build on them. But the main site on Ramsey Quayside is the big site where Cowley's got knocked down. Now, that belonged to Hemmings. Now it belongs to Hemmings' descendants. And unless it's passed, I think it got sold, and then it's for sale again now. And that's £1 million.
£1 million?
So, $1 million before you start. So, and what are you going to build on it? It's no good putting shops up because half the shops in Ramsey's empty anyway. You've got to think what you're going to sell in these shops. And the only thing that seems to be able to sell plenty of is something to eat or something to drink. All the other shops are just, well, hanging on there. It's got to be something to eat, a cafe or some sort of thing like that. And you have to own the shop. If you've got to pay rent before you start, forget it. Just forget it. You can't win. You've got to own it and make use of it.
Dr. Allenson was saying that the quayside can't be sorted out or won't go for development until there's a wall there, some sort of wall.
Nonsense. Total nonsense. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I've told them what wall to put down there, but they don't take my advice. 2-foot wall, that's all you require. Nothing else. The road surface, a bit outside my house, because my house shakes when the big wagons go past. But apart from that, there's nothing wrong with the surface of the road. It's perfectly all right. And concrete footpaths, that's what you want. No maintenance with them. Job done. But I don't see why you can't build the other side of the road, town side, because that's got no effect on building walls or anything on the edge of the harbour. You build what you want. There's several plans gone in there when Mr. Hemmings had it. Mr. Hemmings is dead and gone now. So they put it for sale rather than trying to build something.
And did Mr. Hemmings get planning on any of it?
Yes, there's two or three times he got planning and things, but for some reason it conked out. They didn't continue with it. He was going to do a row of shops and flats and things above it, or offices above it. But I say there should be, well, big block of flats stuck there, because but you must have the parking. That's the thing. You must have my way of parking there. Nothing should be built in Ramsey, big complex like that, where you're going to have a lot of people. That means a lot of cars. You must have the parking for them cars. And my way would be first floor, you drive underneath. That's it. And then you go up into your flat. And you get a big block of flats on there. And you've got the view of the harbour and all the rest of it. It'd be a good sight.
What about Albert Road School site?
Well, that's already getting sorted out for the commissioners are sorting that out.
What's that going to
be? Well, some houses on it. Associated parking, supposed to be. But, of course, nobody's got any money. My thing would be the bus station, which should go there. And the bus station swapped, which belongs to the government, swapped to Ramsey for that site, because I know for a fact that high up people in the buses wanted that site, because if you have that site, the buses is lying outside now anyway, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to put them under cover. All you need is toilets, ticket box, whatever, and all the rest of it. Buses can be parked outside on that side, and then you can forget the messing about they've got when the races is on. Now, the other side, if you swapped it, it's a far bigger site, the bus station site. Knock that down, build a load of houses on there. But all this takes money. And nobody seems to have any money.
Right, so let's get it straight then. You can't take sand or stones from the beach, and that's official. That's official.
You're not allowed to take anything off the beach. Unless you go down and pick seashells, you can have them. But you're not allowed to pick any stones, any sand off the beach. Yeah. Maybe there's people as well up in the sand and gravel works and also there, well, I don't know, high up in government or whatever, got their fingers in it, and you've got to go and buy it.
Right.
From the point of instead of having it for free and doing a good job on Douglas Prom. But there you go.
All right. Well, hey, Wilf, I'm in Ramsey next week. Would you put the kettle on?
Yes, what day?
It's probably going to be Tuesday, I would say.
Right, okay, same time as usual. Okay.
All right, yes, okay. Thanks for that.
All right, and ginger biscuits.
And ginger biscuits, thank you very much. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay,
Gina,
right,
it's
right.
21 minutes past 12 it is. So there we are. It's official from Wilf. You're not allowed to take stones from the beach. You can't take sand from the beach. And that's that. Is that true? Have you? I mean, that's the official word, but does anybody do it? It shows you what 24 Hours does. Yesterday I got a message in from D on 601 who said, why don't they put homeless people in the flats on Lord Street? They'll have at least 20 years to live until they decide what to do with them. And then today, D, you jinxed it. They've announced they're selling the flats at Lord Street in Douglas. So there we are. Now, well, it depends how long it's going to be and who buys them and what's actually going to happen with those Lord Street apartments. It is a huge, huge site. And presumably they're only dealing with the Lord Street flats on the Shaw's Brow car park, the ones that abut onto the Shaw's Brow car park side, not the other side by Quine's Corner. What's happening with Summerhill View, says 376? Well, they've appointed people to run it, it's just that nothing's happening so far. It looks beautiful from the outside. It's just that nothing seems to happen. The people of Castletown need to watch the idea of making roads one way. It'll be another way of losing parking spaces, says Alan. It makes sense that Lord Street site's being sold off. Heartening to hear proceeds from the sale will go to further housing. Lord Street and Williston apartments are a cut above the Lord Street ones. From 623, we'll find out more. I'm laughing at Chris Thomas, says James. James says he's made, not James, but Chris Thomas. Chris Thomas says he's made a positive contribution to the Department of Health. He's only been there 2.5 weeks. Well, you never know. It may have all been packed into 2.5 weeks. When Lord Street first came up, it was said that Dandara, who built the new ones, would get the contract to note the old ones down. We don't know, Kelly. That was mentioned many times because Dandara built the new Peel Road flats. Nice ones as well. Very nice. But we'll see what happens. But certainly something's going to happen with those. And they are big and they are very, very substantial. And I don't know whether it's terribly straightforward by the way they connect to Shaw's Brow car park or whether it is going to be straightforward to do all that. I've just turned 60. My year at school was the first to be taught all metric from day one. All my life I've been hearing pensioners banging on about not wanting to change. Now I'm getting to that age. I think they should accept and move on and start letting young folk buy things in kilos as opposed to pounds. Embrace the fact you don't have to go to the shop every week and draw your pension and have it paid straight into the bank, says texter 049. And let's hope Lord Street flats don't end up another derelict eyesore on the Isle of Man, says Frankie, Francesca and Franco. Any developers should be given a strict timescale from start to finish and massive fines with failure to comply and without any public money whatsoever. And why are Ramsey ratepayers paying for contractors to jet wash and scrub the pavements when the commissioners have their own machine to do this, along with staff being paid to stand around? Is that true? Somebody's being paid to jet wash the pavements. Thank you for that. And the marina's back in the news. Will the marina be classed as a brownfield site in Ramsey as well? So the Isle of Man's net zero vanity project, that's 502's word, vanity project, has now been used as a stick to beat the only new large-scale independent investment project on the Isle of Man, namely the medical cannabis farm. Net zero will have us all in the poorhouse. You may have heard Claire Barber saying that obviously it uses a lot of water and uses a lot of electricity, so maybe it's not going to happen. Well, I remember when they were talking about the medicinal cannabis farm, apparently it will use a lot of water to get started in the pump priming stage, but after that they were talking about recycling most of it. But anyway, we'll see. Thank you, 502. Surely if my card is going to be stopped, says Crystal, there's a replacement. People need a way to get their money. The numbers will grow as banks are closing accounts left, right and centre. I'm sure Stu Peters will have a new card option planned for us. We do need our post offices, as rural ones are social hubs as much as cash cows. Best wishes. Thank you, Crystal. Best wishes to you. And here's Julian. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. I was just thinking, using stones off the beach for landscaping. I wonder if everyone was allowed to do it on Douglas Promenade, instead of putting that wall higher. I reckon it would clear it pretty quick, wouldn't it?
Well, we could have a kind of public fund, really, where everybody is allowed a certain amount until it goes down to where it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, you could get a printers to do a nice certificate that you could put, so you could say, this was to help with rising sea level mitigation or something. I don't know.
Well, there is something else as well. Maybe everybody could be allowed to take a certain amount from Douglas Beach, as long as you take it to Kirkmichael and build up the defences at Kirkmichael. Because Wilf was saying that the point of air is getting closer to Scotland every year, mainly because it's being shaved off around Kirkmichael. So maybe we can all shift it from Douglas and put it in Kirkmichael.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever walked along the beach at Kirkmichael, I mean, they've been building it on big sand heaps, haven't they, really? Because it's, if you try and walk up the cliff there, you kind of, it's pretty crumbly, so it's not really surprising that it's all starting to fall apart, really.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Just following on from yesterday, the Telegraph reported this morning, billions of pounds wiped off value of wind farm operators. Ørsted has lost almost all of its share value as compared to when it was switched from Dong Energy around 2017. They've lost 400% this year alone. Early hours of yesterday morning, they lost 12%, which turns into a 20 billion euro loss. At the same time, Vestas and Nordex, those are the two turbine manufacturers that are touted for Cairby wind farm at Erie Stain. Vestas alone lost 17.5 billion euros yesterday, and they have been on a trajectory since 2021 of losses, but they seem to be getting propped up. And I notice Ørsted has paused its dividend payments. So anyone that's got Ørsted shares, you may not be getting a dividend anytime soon. They're trying to get some money by selling off their stake in 4 UK wind farms, including the Walney extension, Hornsey 1 and 2, and Burbo Bank extension. But they've only managed to yield 1.75 billion, which is not a lot when you've just lost 20 billion within a few hours.
I mean, what do you think? Much has been made of the kind of new president, the president-elect in the United States, and his opposition to net zero. He's called it many, many things. But, I mean, do you think that will filter down to Europe? Do you think, what will be the upshot of it?
Well, it is filtering already, isn't it? Because Germany are starting to go back to fossil fuels because they're basically losing their ability to do industry.
Well, that was because they banked on the Nord Stream gas pipe, and obviously Mr. Putin fell out with everybody because of Ukraine. Germany used to get cheap gas from Russia and doesn't anymore. And they also there was a political decision because of their particular political system, proportional representation, where the Green Party wanted rid of nuclear power in Germany. So they banked on gas, and unfortunately, Mr. Putin invaded Ukraine.
Well, yeah, I mean, although, of course, they are still heating themselves at night, and what they're basically doing is they're buying Russian gas via another vendor that makes it look like it's not coming from Russia, with a bit of a markup for the middleman.
I think it's Kazakhstan, apparently. The Kazakhstan economy has burgeoned by about 18,000% because everything's going through there. Yeah,
I noticed that Baku in Azerbaijan has just said that they're going to be boosting their oil production by 25%, which is an absolute vast amount of oil. But the irony of it is they're hosting COP29 at the same time, which is kind of an interesting story.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and certainly that new regime in the United States. But at the back of everything, remember, is the political imperative and the kind of philosophical idea of net zero and climate change or climate crisis, whatever you want to call it. But, of course, at the back of all this is massive amounts of big business and money, Julian.
Well, yeah, I mean, Ørsted ordinarily when a company has almost lost all its share value within a year, you wonder how they're still going, except, of course, that just over 50% of their share price is actually owned by the Danish government. So it's a bit, we mentioned this the other week, if you had a real company that took the risk all on its own, they'd have been gone long ago. And this is my question that I asked you the other week. If the Isle of Man government is wanting to be something like Ørsted and putting up Kærvej wind farm, well, we're all taking the risk, aren't we?
And that's the point. And you know what I'm going to say. You know which figure I'm going to quote, because we all have a stake in this. This is, we all consume electricity and we all contribute to the public coffers, to the funds of the Isle of Man government. So this is part of our life in the future, and it's incumbent on anybody not to get this wrong, or at least to be very circumspect about the route that they take.
Yeah, and, as we are paying that 29p, everybody on this island, why aren't we allowed to know how much we're going to get for the seabed lease at Ørsted? Why aren't we allowed to be told how much that electricity is going to cost that they say they're going to reroute some of it to us? Why is it that the cost of the Kærvej wind farm is more than doubled in a year before the environmental impact assessment's even been done? How far is that going to go? Is it going to be anything like other projects that have gone 3 and 4 times over budget? Is it going to be 120 million? Because it's a lot harder to build a wind farm with putting roads in and all those concrete and rerouting all that water that's up there so that everyone at the bottom of the Colby River doesn't get 7 feet of water over them every time there's a heavy rain. That's a lot harder to build than a ferry terminal. Okay. All right,
Julian, good to hear from you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Okay, there's a bungalow at Wren-Cullen on the left going out of Kirkmichael that was built in the 1980s, faced with beach stones, says Malcolm. Is that? I'd love to see a photo of that. On the left going out of Kirkmichael at Wren-Cullen. Every time we go on holiday, we take a shot glass worth of sand as a souvenir. It's a free gift, but don't tell anybody, says Mike. I won't, Michael. If we pick all the extra stones off the beaches and dump them off Mackle Head, it won't be too long before we're going to be able to walk to Heysham. We won't need the steam packet. If the bus station was moved, then where would all the untaxed abandoned vehicles go in Ramsey, says 762. Is that so? Untaxed abandoned vehicles? More social housing disappears from the Isle of Man. Lord Street flats could be used to decrease the housing crisis, says Neil in Douglas. Well, these are all questions, Neil, for David Ashford, chair of the Housing Board and the Housing Committee, and Devon Watson is on. Next Thursday, a week today, Devon Watson, Councillor Watson from Douglas City Council, leading on housing, and we'll be talking about the Lord Street flats and housing in general in Douglas and elsewhere. There are non-food shops thriving in Ramsey, says 376. What are they? Cash is king, says 068. If we want to keep our banks and post offices, we have to use banks and post offices. With so much fraud around, you need to be able to speak to somebody in a bank to know who you're speaking to. Mannin Line continues.
With the nights drawing in, as soon as you turn your lights on, home can feel like you're living in a goldfish bowl. So this winter, give yourself privacy and extra insulation with blinds custom made right here on the island by Talbot & Son. And with automation too, coziness comes at the touch of a button. Call in at Snugborough Trading Estate Union Mills or visit talbots.im now.
It's official. Your Yamaha main dealership is back on the island at H&H Motorcycles. Stocking Yamaha motorbikes, all-terrain vehicles, Yamaha's own mountain e-bikes and Yamaha golf buggies to order. H&H Motorcycles also stock the full range of RST, RaceFX Enduro and motocross clothing, plus Oakley sunglasses and goggles and Alpine Stars race seats and clothing. They're also the island's Arai, Bell and AGV helmet, motor oils and quad lock distributor. Visit H&H Motorcycles, South Quay Industrial Estate Douglas or see online.
Right. I say, when you're looking for the perfect bathroom, get your silly walk over to Pacesetter, where you'll get friendly help and advice on bathrooms that will work for you. From practical, accessible bathrooms for aging users to the ultimate in luxury designs with walk-in showers and wet rooms, with no inquisitions, dead birds or hard sell. You'll always be on the bright side of life when you see the stunning range on display at Pacesetter Tile and Bathroom Studio, Harris Terrace, Douglas, or search online for Pacesetter Douglas.
The Isle of Man is known as the road racing capital of the world. But have you ever wondered what it truly takes for riders to make it here?
My old saying, which I live by, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it.
In the Journey to a Dream podcast, we dive into the untold stories about the determination, skill and passion that fuel these riders as they seek racing glory.
It must have been a nightmare to work with and live with or whatever, because that was literally the only thing going through my mind.
I still go down Bray Hill and you're going, how are we allowed to do this?
Journey to a Dream, brought to you by Kawasaki Insurance, available at motorsport.manxradio.com or your favourite podcast provider.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
23 minutes before 1. Peter's with us now. Hello, Peter.
Oh, hello, Andy. It's Peter Murcott here. Now, foreshore.
Yeah.
I think I'm right in saying that it's owned by the Crown. The common law doesn't like the idea of ownerless land. Certainly, I think in Britain, the Crown owns the foreshore, where the tides come in and so on.
Right.
What it is in the Isle of Man, probably it does as well, because I think the Crown was in on the revestment, so it probably does. People picking up a few little stones on the beach. Well, there is a principle, of course, in law that triviality... Law doesn't concern itself with trivial things like, for example, if somebody just leans up against the wall of a house, ever so strictly speaking, that's trespass to land, but they wouldn't get very far if they went into the courts to take action on it. So I think that one doesn't really arise where people gather little stones and shells and so on. I think on the other side that if somebody was regularly taking commercial vehicles and was loading up large parts of the beach, I'm pretty sure that eventually there would be an intervention on that, because I'm pretty certain that would not be allowed. Do you get the difference? You know?
So when you say foreshore...
The foreshore, yeah.
Is that to the low water mark? Is that what that is?
I'd have to do some revision on that. I just know that probably to when the tide's out, to when the tide comes in, but I'm not going to say that definitively, because I haven't. It's not anything that really crops up down to the last letter, except I just know that the foreshore, and whatever that in practice means, I'm not certain, but the foreshore does belong to the Crown. The Crown probably would be operated by some division of government now, I would suspect, in Britain, because a lot of Crown rights and so on are usually sort of delegated down to some, because the Crown has two meanings. It can mean the monarch in a personal capacity, but the Crown can also mean the government as well, because they're Crown ministers and their actions are on behalf of the Crown. So it has got more than one meaning in Constitution, but ever so broadly, I think that's where the position is on that one.
Okay.
And if somebody thinks, if somebody knows different, I'll be interested to hear from them. The question about, but one thing that's very, very sort of incidental, that one. What really interests me is the point that you got onto just a few moments ago about whether the attitude of America under the new regime will find its way down to Europe as well. I'm talking about the global warming and net zero and all the other thing. All that I can say is I sincerely hope it does, because we've had regular contributions pointing out the escalating cost of something which is not actually proven anyway. I've read a lot around this, and there is, even amongst the scientists, there is a very great deal of conflict of opinion. And for my own thoughts, I think in any event, the idea that humanity thinks that they can alter the climate and sort of do something by human endeavour and spending untold millions, I think is just part of humanity's arrogance. And this has been pointed out time without number. Climates have changed over the centuries. They talk about since records began. And when you go back to it, and when you go to the fine detail, you find that records didn't begin all that long ago. So these records that they refer to are of reasonably recent origin when you look at the thing.
It's very interesting. I just interrupt you, Peter, because I got an email in yesterday afternoon, actually, from a gentleman called Michael on this very same subject. And his point was that he thinks it's a complete conceit by mankind to think, now, whatever you believe in, whether it's God, Gaia, Maya, Buddha, whatever it is you believe in, for mankind to think that we can affect the climate or the planet, which has been around for, who knows, 200 million years and more, and has been subject to everything from asteroids to sunspots, the reversal of the magnetic poles, droughts, floods, earthquakes and volcanoes. He just said for mankind to think we can change it is just conceited.
Well, that was pretty close to what I said. I said it was arrogance, and arrogance and conceit are pretty close. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it is nonsense. On this Erie stain, following on that, I don't know whether this point's been made. Maybe Julian has, because he makes a lot of very good points when he rings in. You look at these windmills that are going to, and all these long sails or whatever they call them, these that they have got to try and sort of get up to Erie Stane.
Yeah.
When I was, I've looked at the length of them, and when we were driving round, just around that area, I said to my wife, have you ever noticed how many telephone wires and different wires of one thing or another go across the road? And suddenly we started noticing, and it was almost every half mile, you got some cable or something else going across the road. Now, those contraptions that they're going to put up, I've seen vehicles when they've got them loaded on, and they go up very, very high. Well, they wouldn't be able to clear. They wouldn't be able to clear where these cables, so they'll have to take all the telephone wires and goodness knows what away. And then you look at another thing. If you go around the Manx roads, and again I commented on this, you go along some of the country lanes, you've got trees, overhanging trees, and they come down pretty low. So I'm assuming they're going to have to cut all those down to be able to get these windmill parts up to where they're going, because they're in a remote place.
Yeah.
When you go to remote places, you'll always have a lot of vegetation, you'll always have a lot of trees, and I just don't know how they're going to transport them, leave aside everything else. If anybody's ever thought that through, I don't know. My own point is, I sincerely hope that, I come back to what I said, I sincerely hope that the new regime in America will put its influence down, because we are in something which is absolutely disastrous. We don't know. There's an unknown. There is an untold amount of money. We've got price raises to an untold degree, and there's so many variables that they haven't got a clue. They keep talking about this price of electricity. They'll all be wrong. It will be unaffordable, and people will just freeze because they won't be able to afford to pay the bills. And in any event, come back to what your very sensible person wrote in on. It's all to part of this arrogance that we think we can change it, and they won't change anything. The only thing I hope that does change is the climate change, and I hope it changes for the better and that it gets abandoned, and we start using the money that we've got, instead of earmarking it off to causes that aren't going to succeed, perhaps be able to balance the budget a little bit better. That's my thought anyway.
Good to hear from you, Peter. Thanks for calling today.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. 14 minutes to 1 on Manx Radio. Yeah, the coincidence that Peter was talking along those lines, Michael in Castletown sent me, it was a very long email, so I preceded it, but really he just said it's something of a conceit to think that mankind thinks it can influence the planet. He just said that the Industrial Revolution started a couple of hundred years ago. The planet's been around for millions of years. Thank you, Michael. Good to hear from you. Didn't they use the stones from the shore to decorate the hospital gardens when it first opened, says WhatsApper 110. Hi, Curly in Ballasalla. Good to hear from you. Proud to live in the 6th safest place in the world. And respect to all war veterans. Yes, of course, remember, we'll be covering Remembrance Sunday this coming Sunday. We'll cover it live on Manx Radio, and then we'll have also the silence next week as well. Every time we go on holiday, yes, we take a shot of sand as well. You must have sand absolutely everywhere. Taking stones and sand off beaches is very risky, says Helen. Beaches provide an effective barrier to stop the sea encroaching inland. An extreme example is Hall Sands in Devon, which was washed away in a storm as the beach was removed over time to build Plymouth Naval Dockyard. Google it to read how dangerous it can be. That's Hall Sands, Hallsands, Hall Sands in Devon, which was washed away. And here's a message in from Peter, who just said, so you can't take sand and stones from the beach. If you go sub-aqua diving, can you take stones from underneath the sea? There was a lovely, there was a lovely friendly sign on Laxey Beach from Garth Commissioners saying, don't take any stones away. The very same commissioners then paid for somebody to shift them last year, which is typical why they get moved for free when you can pay somebody else. No wonder the rates went up 25% in the past 2 years, says D. Lord Street Apartments. 2 apartments knocked into one, Andy. You just need new windows, refresh the inside and render it outside. Easily updated and won't cost a fortune. Text, email, call, WhatsApp. The story that we've been looking at today is Lord Street flats built in the 1930s in Douglas are going to be placed on the market. The last remaining tenants went out in 2022, and Douglas City Council believes now is the right time to sell the 4-storey building as it continues to invest in providing accommodation considered more suitable to modern-day standards. Well, Devon Watson, Councillor Watson, is on next Thursday, along with the Housing Chairman, David Ashford, MHK.
This November at the Gaiety Theatre, experience the riveting tale of justice, redemption and love that is Les Miserables, the drama. From the 20th to the 23rd of November, be enthralled by Parker and Snell's powerful adaptation of Victor Hugo's timeless story, where convict Jean Valjean finds purpose protecting young Cosette amidst the chaos of French rebellion. If you love the story, you'll love the drama. Les Miserables. Book your tickets now at villagaiety.com.
Oh, blowing a hoolie out there.
Come in for a Bravig by the fire. Just stocked up at Hearth. Never been so warm.
Who's that? Hearth?
Aye, they've got kiln-dried hardwood for me log burner, Colombian coal and smokeless ovals for the open fire, kindling and firelighters all delivered. Great value too.
All goes up the chimney anyway, so I pay more. I'll be giving Hearth a call.
Check their website as well. Just order and they deliver.
For all your fire fuel needs, call Hearth on 560 577 or visit hearth.co.com.
Whether starting a new business or building up your existing business, come and talk to the accounts and tax experts at Nicola Bowker & Co. With their holistic approach to business advice, Nicola Bowker & Co. will work with you to achieve success. For accounts that work, call 861 271.
Walk through the Christmas wonderland at Ramsey Garden Centre for a magical range of trees, decorations, unique gifts and much more, including the widest range of indoor and outdoor lights. Christmas at Ramsey Garden Centre, open 7 days a week.
Hello, this is Doug Farragher. In conjunction with Manx Radio, I'd like to invite you to join us and learn something about our native Gaelic tongue, the language of man.
At 5:30 today, you can hear Seach Lay.
Joy Dunlop will be doing some workshops during the festival, and she will also be working with local choir Uncarea, who sing exclusively in Manx Gaelic, to do some collaborative work which will be premiered at this concert.
We would encourage everyone to use whatever Manx they can that week and, of course, throughout the year.
Join me at 5:30 today for Seach Lay.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Billy dropped a note in and just said if the Isle of Man doesn't build the wind farms proposed, where are we going to get our electricity from in the future? Nobody's adequately answered the question. Thank you, Billy. And also from texter WhatsApper 963. Can you tell me who is capable of altering the climate? Common sense seems to have abandoned the ruling class. I need your help. I do hope you can help, or you know somebody who can help. A woman whose mother was abandoned near Ramsey as a baby 78 years ago is hopeful she can trace her family's history. Stephanie French was just 6 days old when she was found on the 14th of April 1946, naked, wrapped in brown paper in Ballure Glen. Stephanie was adopted a few months later and moved to the UK. While the police at the time weren't able to find out who her birth parents were, Stephanie's daughter Lorraine is hopeful they've got a step closer to some answers using DNA tracing.
My mum was abandoned in Ballure Glen in 1946. They estimated that she was probably about 6 to 7 days old, and it was a group of children that found her. I don't think anybody can really understand what the birth parents were going through. I mean, it was just after the war, so we can't imagine what they were going through to come to that decision. We actually didn't find out until my mum was 57, although she always felt like she didn't belong in her own family. So my mum was a foster parent for mother-baby placements, and she needed a full passport, and she only ever had a bridging part to her birth certificate. So she requested her full birth certificate, and they actually said to her, "We don't have a baby born on this date. Have you tried adoptions?" So she went to see my nan, and the story then came out. She was brought up by a solicitor and his wife, and then obviously she married my dad. They moved to Germany, where I was born, because he was military, and we ended up moving back to Brighton when my dad had left the army, and she lived a very nice life. And the thing that I really always find amazing is the line of work she went into, even though she didn't know her beginnings.
Have you got any clues for the mother's side?
Well, I've been told the family came from Queen's Drive, and actually when we had a look on the maps, it kind of falls into place, because in a car it is literally a minute's drive to where my mum was found, I believe.
Now, can you help? Do you know anything about this? Hopefully, I mean, what we want is a happy family reunion. As Lorraine said, who knows what was going on? Who knows what was going on in 1946? All sorts of things, the pressures, the personal circumstances. But her mother was found naked in brown paper in Ballure Glen. If we can get to the bottom of this, then it will be absolutely fantastic. And if you know anything about this, you know any rumours, hints, anything that you know that may take us a little bit further down the line. Obviously, Lorraine wants to just find out more. And she said it will complete a circle. Her mother never quite knew where she was from, having been found in Ballure Glen. Any thoughts on this? You go to manxradio.com, have a look. The full story is there. You should be able to grow your own medicinal cannabis, says DB. I can't afford to acquire medicinal cannabis, so I have to suffer in silence. Switzerland has the strictest laws about cannabis, yet they allow sufferers to grow 6 mature cannabis plants at any one time. And about time the Isle of Man followed suit, says DB. It makes sense that the Law Street site is going to be sold. Heartening to hear the proceeds from the site will go to further housing. And a note in to say Is it true that the wind turbines have a diesel generator to keep them turning when there's no wind? Well, the trouble is we don't really know, do we? It would be nice if the people involved gave us far too much information, but as it stands, you kind of feel you're fighting for information. We haven't heard anything more, by the way, about Kroger. They've got 7 weeks, or now it'll be 6 weeks, really, to get their particular act together. So we wait, we watch, and we'll see what happens. An unpopular decision with some people, says Roy B. 505, but I'd like to see a decrease in social housing. Why should people get subsidised living over people paying mortgages only to have their assets stripped away if they need social care? Reduce it or put the rents up. It's not fair that people have that free life. It's been mentioned many times. The non-food shops in Ramsey are charity shops, but there is a fantastic bookshop there as well. You don't run it, do you, 762? For the past 2 weeks, says Charles, we've had settled weather, but it's been overcast with no wind. So what happens in this situation with wind turbines and solar panels? We'll still need conventional power generation, I think. Well, perhaps they're thinking that the interconnectors will do the work. We've got one, it's about 20 years old, lands just below Manx Radio. Port Skillion starts in Bispham by Blackpool. That's been there for ages and ages. And Orsted are planning, if they get their wind turbine array offshore on the east coast of the Isle of Man, they're promising to put another one in from Preston to, well, it'll be about Groudle Glen. That'll light up the trains. You hinted recently there'll be an announcement regarding the TT scoreboard. Any more news, says Trevor. No, Trevor, but as soon as I hear, I'll let you know. If the Crown owns the foreshore, does this mean that the Duchy of Lancaster owns it? He owns the seabed in the Irish Sea and gets a rent off every wind turbine. Well, I don't think the King will get a rent off our wind turbine. I have to ask the Lieutenant Governor about that. Back tomorrow with another open line. Thanks to Alex on the phones today. Remember, next Thursday, David Ashford and Devon Watson. Have a great Thursday.
WINT.